সো হ্যালো অ্যান্ড ওয়েলকাম ওয়ান্স অ্যাগেইন ডিজিটাল আইডিয়াজের পর্দায় সবাইকে আরও একবার স্বাগত। আমরা চলে এসেছি আপনাদের অত্যন্ত প্রিয় একটা শো নিয়ে, অবশ্যই ইউরো কাপ শো, দ্য ইউরো শো, যেটা নাম দিয়েছি আমরা, রাদার দ্য বেস্ট ইউরো শো। আমার সঙ্গে অবশ্যই রয়েছে আজকে এমন একজন যিনি ইংল্যান্ডের অন্যতম একজন জাতীয় দলের খেলোয়াড়ের শিক্ষাগুরু বা শিক্ষক, যে স্টুডেন্ট, সেই টিচার রয়েছেন অ্যান্ডি কুপার, এবং আমার সঙ্গে রয়েছেন অবশ্যই ফুটবল কমেন্টেটর এবং ফুটবল অ্যানালিস্ট সুমন চক্রবর্তী। আমি অবশ্যই সুমন দাকে বলবো প্রথম প্রশ্নটা অ্যান্ডিকে করার জন্য।
Yeah, hi Andy. Nice to get you back. Hope things are fine back in England.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. All promising and pushing forward here. Yeah, things are going okay. Thank you. Hope everything is well with you guys as well.
Yes, Andy. First of all, we'd like to talk about Italy. The first team to qualify for the knockouts yesterday, and they once again produced a stellar performance against a very gutsy side like Switzerland. We have seen how tactical Mancini's ploy can be, and they literally outplayed Switzerland in the second half. What do you think about it? And Locatelli, I'd like to hear something about him. Out of the block, became a hero.
Yeah, I did mention him in the previous show last week. It's not really an outsider, is it? But I know with obviously the recent troubles that you'd say they'd had with previous campaigns and misqualifications, that the pressure was really on. But he's really got that identity back in how they play and how they're set up. And, a lot of it will be, a lot of the focus from a lot of pundits and analysis might be around the attacking play and how they play. But for me, it's that solid foundation at the back with the keeper and the back four. If there's a way to train and to coach and develop young players, especially how to defend, then the Italians have been doing it extremely well for years. And it showed now the amount of clean sheets. The goalkeeper, I don't think he's conceded more than a single goal every time he's represented the national team. So he's got some incredible stats, and he's on a huge clean sheet run as well. So they're really embedded a good foundation of style of play, and that foundation at the back and that really clarity throughout the team in the terms of all 11 when they don't have the ball, not just the back four and the goalkeeper, allow them to express themselves when they go forward and the pace that they had in the wide areas. And it's a great thing for a coach to see them side foot tapping finishes once the move's been made. It's not all about them goals from halfway line that we saw earlier in the week, even the ones that where the team are in good compact shape, the nick possession, and they can break quickly and at speed, and a tap in the middle or the back post is sometimes as pleasing as a coach. So they're definitely the team to watch, as they go through it and progress. And it'll be interesting to see how now they approach the Wales game. Now they're through, whether they take the foot off the pedal and give an opportunity for rest some players, or whether they keep going and build on the momentum they've had, not just in this tournament, but the unbeaten 10 games. The winning streak of 10 games and I think 29 matches. Although a lot of the teams maybe a lesser competitive games for them, but now they're going to be fully going, ready for the next game, no doubt.
Yes. You just mentioned about Wales. They were absolutely brilliant yesterday. We have seen them to be a bit, nervy in their first outing. Understandable, first real tournament in years. And that is the reason why even we have seen Gareth Bale to struggle a little bit the other day as well. But yesterday, with the way Bale led the team by an example, despite the fact that he missed a penalty, but the way he led the side like a matured player and the way they got the success, how do you rate Wales' performance yesterday?
Yeah, a very good display against a team that, I was pretty underwhelmed by Turkey, to be honest, but a lot different performance from Wales. I thought they gave Switzerland a lot of respect. They dropped off deep and they kind of got picked off in certain areas, although, got the credited draw, which is great in the group stages. Rob Page made an interesting comment. He was very passionate about his players going into the first game undercooked, underprepared. A lot of his players don't get opportunities in English football. A lot of them don't play week in, week out. And he was quite vocal with that and saying that he needs more time with his players. He needs more game time, and that they will, increase the standard and level of performance as they progress, which they showed yesterday. I thought they were dominant. I thought they did really well. I was very pleased with the style that they had. and obviously the bounce back from Gareth Bale after the penalty miss, and even the audacity at the end where most people and coaches are screaming for the ball to be taken into the corner and to keep play, but twice on both occasions to have the nerve to then take the player, beat the man and square it just for the goal to finish off. So I thought they were very, very impressive ultimately against an opposition that I thought might have provided more stiffer test. And now on to Italy. It's going to be interesting. They go over to Rome now from Azerbaijan, where they've had the previous camp, and decide what they want to do. Do they try and again get minutes into the legs and build on previous performances, or does he feel that some of the players may need to sit out to prepare for what potentially could be the next last of group of 16 stages?
Absolutely. Well, we have a question from Suranjan. And the question is, Italy stormed into the pre-quarterfinals. We have seen that such domination from Italy is worth remembering for a long, long time. A complete turnaround of the style of play. A team where 4-5 players can score is definitely one of the favorites in this Euro. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it just shows how fickle a world football can be, and people like us speaking openly about it. Whereas, you know, they were a few years ago in deep trouble. There was a big crisis. You know, my country, England's had that as well. Spain, there was a big crisis after Spain's first game as well. That dominant possession that they have and not being able to cut open teams. But when Italy are producing performances like they've had, it's the traditional Italy that we know. It's not gone away from a tried and tested method. And it's very effective and very hard to break down and to play against. It's going to be interesting how Wales set up against them. You know, if they look to do what they did against Switzerland and drop a bit deeper and get a low block going, then with the creativity that Italy have, that might be difficult for them to maintain over the 90 minutes. So definitely agree with the comment and the question there with regards to being one of the favourites. You know, they've come out of the pack. Mancini's obviously developed a really good culture in there. They seem to be playing for one another and they're on fire at the moment.
Well, I have a question from Saurav Mandol to you, actually. Andy, Messi has won Olympic gold, and for the country, okay, under 20, I think he meant to say, actually, World Cup for their country. And why everyone tells that he hasn't won any trophy for his country?
Well, to be fair, I think everybody had classed the youth World Cups and championships, obviously, whether it's been Asia, Europe or South America championships. Maybe people are classing what Messi's achieved in terms of senior football and not youth. If people want to state something that they did at under 15, 17, 19's, great. But I'm sure it really matters and really counts of them developing years when it comes to senior football and it comes to getting international teams caps, international caps, and obviously first team football, which he's had at Barcelona and been massively successful. So I wouldn't be too critical about his career. Absolutely not.
Well, this is a common question which everyone has, actually. Soptik Saha has a question. A word on Locatelli, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, when we're going through these players throughout the tournaments and coaches as well, you always seem to, you can pick an era of football and pick out people that thrive from these type of opportunities and these conditions to play in. And I've been really impressed when I was watching the Italian goalkeeper, which I know is at the other end of the pitch, and you're watching the commanding that he has at 22 years of age, and what platform that been able to put on for players further ahead to be able to dominate higher up the pitch. So I've been impressed with a number of players through the championship so far, but I know it's a marathon and not a sprint. It maybe has been, and I know Stephen's been on in terms of physically. It's going to be interesting to see what this takes its toll out of the players. But I know that when you get these type of players who get on the biggest stage, it's always great to have the ones that bubbling under and burst onto the scene and see whether they can have a sustained performance throughout the tournament like we've seen in previous editions of Euros.
Andy, we missed you on the last couple of shows, so of course the question will be coming straight away. We'll be taking the question from Bhaskar, but before that, I think you've seen the telling performance of Cristiano Ronaldo as well the other day against Hungary. So how do you see the performance of Ronaldo, even at the age of 36? He has been growing better and better.
Yeah, he's kind of timeless, isn't he? If you've looked after yourself as well as he has done, and had that lifestyle, then there's no wonder he can put in a performance like he did. And even moments of the game where he was quiet, and maybe you're watching the broadcast feed and you're not seeing what a lot of the work doing off the ball. But when it comes to the big moments, he popped up, and it wasn't a surprise, was it, when he's there and he contributes what he does. So again, it'll be interesting how he's handled himself over this period with coming off the back of a hectic season and tough training schedule. But again, world-class players on a huge stage and any performance, and that's when you have that ongoing debate about if someone is world-class, and you can have the Messi and Ronaldo debate all day. But for me, it's whether they can do it on the biggest stage. And at the moment, the biggest stage that Ronaldo's got to perform on is Euro 2020, obviously, albeit a year delayed. And he's been able to do it. It's obviously no mentioning some of the players that, Aaron Ramsey yesterday, that potentially wouldn't have been on this stage a year ago who was injured. And you look at Ronaldo, would have been, what difference that year's made onto his body. But yet again, he's shown that he's been timeless, his performance. Whether he's going to end up doing the more Ryan Giggs role of dropping deeper, and Wayne Rooney did it latterly in his career, and there's other players as well, but he still has that ability to find positions to take up good areas of the game to be able to dominate opponents, whether that might be 1v1 or his positioning or his control or his execution as well.
Brilliant. Anirban will be taking the previous question from Haskar. Yes, the question is, Italy sometimes loses some silly matches when they play in the knockout stages. What are your thoughts on this Italy team? Though they have started well, actually. Yeah.
Well, the mentality looks right, doesn't it? And that's the key part. But again, it's tournament football now, so you manage your way through group stages, keeping people fit, less yellow cards, suspensions, these type of things, managing game time of players. But ultimately, once you've got them 6 points in the bag, you then look to navigate your way through and then get up to the next stages. And if you can do that with a clear squad, fully fit and ready to play, then you've got every chance. But again, it'll be that making sure that they're fully focused, they're switched on, they analyse the opposition, which no doubt teams are doing right the way through the stages. They'll be doing their analysis on games right the way through. So it'll be tireless effort throughout the backroom staff to make sure that they're fully prepared. Tweaks and changes. Many teams haven't maybe set up as traditionally as you thought they might do. A number of teams have had a different kind of style. Some teams will change game on game. Wales might have a different setup to play them in the next fixture, which might provide them a different challenge and task. So it'll just be about maintaining that focus and discipline and concentration right the way through. Because when you get to these knockout stages, obviously you can't afford to slip up, but they've got the quality and the class that they've shown in the first two games to be able to navigate through, no doubt, to get later right into the nitty-gritty part of the tournament.
Absolutely, and there were a lot of questions about this Italian side. Well, Arnav might be taking your question for sure, but of course the question was like, if Chiellini is not available, then is Acerbi good enough to fill into his shoes and then perform well in such a great stage like the Euro Cup? Yes, he played outstandingly for Lazio, but what do you think about Acerbi's performance? It was never easy because big game, your captain is getting injured in the early minutes of the game, then to keep the nerve, the tempo of the game in the same spirit, and to end up with a clean sheet.
I think it's that tempo and that energy that you said, that opportunity to play and to grasp it with both hands when it comes, because these games come thick and fast, and you have to recover, get on to the next game, and you want to stake your place for the next opportunity to play. And this Wales one will be interesting, how they decide to go up. And as soon as that team sheet comes out, or the kind of reports come out the next day, when they're lining up and they're doing the set pieces and the first 10 minutes of training is open, or people will be trying to sneak a peek of what the lineup's going to be, because that'll be kind of how they're going to set up and determine what their thoughts are. Do they need to keep the momentum and keep the minutes in the players' legs to keep the forward thinking when they get into the last 16, or do they want to give people a little break and make sure that they're really fresh and ready to navigate their way through what's obviously going to be a tricky side of the draw? So they're in a great position. You can only do what they've done so far, and all credit to the management team and obviously the backroom staff for what they've done. They've approached it really well, and I don't see them kind of changing their style too much. I just think that there's two ways of kind of setting up. You can either obviously analyze the opposition and change your approach and make subtle tweaks, or you can be confident in your own abilities and say, we respect the opposition, we know how they're going to play, but we we back ourselves man to man and individually and as a squad. And the importance of the squad that you've touched on in your question, that we do have people to back up when there's injuries. If people are going off or there's issues with the captain, we can bring somebody in who's going to step up to the plate and take on the tempo and the intensity right away.
Well, I have a question from Arnav Mukherjee. The question is, Suman, do you see Denmark pulling off an upset against Belgium? Right? I mean, same vibe, I think. Andy will be telling the same, I think. I mean, without Eriksen, it would be very, very difficult task because you're playing against the best team in the world. We're in terrific rhythm. We have seen, we heard like Eden Hazard had a thigh injury, which is yet to be recovered, but he played for a few minutes the other day and looked very, very much okay. So, I mean, keeping all those things in mind, I mean, this is still one of the toughest teams to beat in modern day football, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, and their team selection will be interesting again with injury, like you said, and Nichols, Hazard, obviously De Bruyne, and people like this. Where when do you put them in? When do you take them out? Do we want to start them and try and get a lead and then bring them off? Do you want to play them later in the game when the tempo maybe is slowed? So it'll be interesting decisions to make. I think from the Danish point of view, they're obviously shell shocked and will no doubt kind of be affected with what's happened in the last week, but also hopefully inspired and spirited by that, and they'll be wanting to do it for their teammate, for Eriksen. But ultimately, that's easier said and done in press conference, and it's a different, a very different prospect when you're facing a world-class team like Belgium. So I fully expect it to be a competitive game, but I do think that Belgium will be too strong. Unfortunately for Denmark, and I do have a lot of Danish friends, and that might come back and mock me, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a question will automatically come over here. I mean, how do you see Denmark's lineup without Eriksen, because he plays the most important part as an attacking midfielder. He's the reason why he's the main playmaker who can create all sorts of trouble for the opposition team. But without him, we have seen how they struggled against Finland. It was a tale of two halves, actually, when they played against Finland. Do you think the same would be happening against Belgium as well?
Yeah, I'm unsure if he knows his best team really now that Eriksen's out. I know they made a full complement of changes, chasing and trying to find a solution, because when you lose such a good player of his quality, and like you say, that being able to link that play up from midfield to attack is not, you're not just replacing an out-and-out nine, you're replacing somebody who's able to drop in and receive the ball and link play. Is potentially irreplaceable, but what they have got is a good togetherness, a great spirit. I think you saw that on the pitch, and you've seen that in the press conferences prior and since, what's come out, a lot of the togetherness and the team spirit that they have, and hopefully they can find a bond that a team is obviously greater than one individual, but for sure it leaves a huge hole in the team, and it's going to be interesting if they change the setup and the style and just make a like-for-like replacement. Ultimately they're going to be up against a team that can play very fluid, fast football, great movement in and around the box. So they're going to be tough to play against.
We'll be discussing about Netherlands, but before that, Suranjan has a question. Was it Wales that played excellent, or it was more of the Turkey's incapabilities to score from the attacking third that made Wales look so dominating? I think it's a case. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it happens a lot in football, doesn't it? And obviously, from as being a coach, for me, when you win, a lot of people may comment that the opposition was poor. You never seem to play well. It's difficult to get a compliment, but I thought Wales were fully deserved the victory. I do think it is a slight bit of both. They're disappointed with Turkey, but I thought the tactics and the way Wales set up, the patterns of play that these players train and work on are evident in how Wales play. They've done it in previous campaigns where they've set up with that 3-4-3, like a box four midfield, and they try and break out, and they had Ramsey and Bale breaking out into spaces. But you saw that there was a clear style and a clear way. They'd obviously worked on that straight ball to a diagonal run, which is really hard to defend. Not playing off the last line and the shoulder of the defenders. Ramsey started his run deeper. He made that run across the centre-backs, and I think he got in at least twice before he actually had the goal that he scored. And obviously he blazed one over the bar, much to his disappointment. I know he's frustrated because he thought it was offside, but the runs were really well timed, and you can tell Bale picking up the ball in them little pockets of space and being able to play a really accurate ball into the run of Ramsey in behind the Turkish defence. But they couldn't deal with it and they didn't adapt to it well. So I do think it was partly a bit of both, but Wales do deserve a lot of credit for how they set up and how they changed. They're kind of a bit more fearless and a bit more on the front foot than they were against Switzerland.
Well, Aritra has a question, Aritra Goswami. I mean, of course, Locatelli is a talking point at the moment, especially after his back-to-back clinical performances for Italy. Hey, Andy, Suman, and Irwan, hope you're doing well. Manuel Locatelli grabbed their headlines in no time. Promising prospect. I think he's already a promising prospect. He played some outstanding football in this area in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what is he? Be 23, 24, and we touched on him earlier. I think wouldn't always be maybe a top goal scoring record in maybe the youth, but now you get your opportunity. You work your way through younger age group football, and obviously take your opportunity for when the national team comes in a real poacher in. And predator in front of goal.
Absolutely. Now we are coming back to the discussion about Netherlands. We'll be taking the question of Saurabh, but before that, Netherlands played some great attacking football. Frank de Boer's team showed that they are capable of handling the pressure of the expectation they have over the years. I mean, we all know the Orange Brigade is always known for playing some outstanding total attacking football right from the start of Johan Cruyff's time. I mean, keeping that thing in mind, what do you think about their chances of making it to the last 8? Because, Wijnaldum, we all thought like him. We have questions like whether he can be the next big thing in terms of leadership qualities. We have seen some outstanding leaders in Netherlands over the years, but he came out with flying colours the other day. What do you think?
Yeah, it was a great game, wasn't it? It was a real, challenging group game and grueling game, and it'll be interesting to see how they can back it up against Austria. Definitely be watching that one later tonight. You know what you're going to get with this team now, the way they're set up and the way they play, dominant, and they want to be more dominant in possession, I guess, tonight, and really rotate the ball and move the ball a lot quicker than they did in the opening spells of the first game. But I didn't put them in the preview show, so man, I didn't tip them. I thought they were maybe a little bit undercooked, but let's see how they progress tonight and see how they come on. Obviously, being able to get that win and get over the line 3-2, it shows a certain character that they've got, and I'm sure they might not be forward and coming backwards to tell you what they think of the performance and how well and the chances that they've got. And maybe it's sometimes going under the radar is a help, because in previous competitions have always been very well hyped and very well liked. But I do like the way they're set up and the style of play, and I think it's going to be an interesting one how they're going to set up against Austria, that were had an interesting game and maybe a little scare against North Macedonia at the start as well. So we're getting to that really nitty-gritty part of the group stages now, where nerves, mistakes, errors can creep in, and that can come from the manager and the bench as well in terms of selection, and just trying to make sure that you don't put all your eggs in one basket for one game and leave yourself really struggling for next games, and for sure the Dutch team will be fully focused going into tonight, thinking really that they should be overpowering and should be too strong for Austria.
Yeah, one more thing which we noticed the other day when Netherlands played against Ukraine, that every time Giorgio Wijnaldum was joining the attack alongside Weghorst and Memphis Depay and De Jong was rightly supporting them, it was creating a void in the heart of the midfield, and that allowed Ukraine to make those counterattacks. It's not just about the width they used, but at the same time the down the middle runs, which created a lot of problems. And that's the reason why we saw a seesaw battle, an end-to-end action. Both the teams created so many opportunities, and the 45 minutes which ended up goalless could easily be said one of the best 45 minutes of this Euro Cup. How do you see that void to be filled, especially De Roon? Of course, we know that the Manchester United midfielder Van der Beek is not there. So I mean, in the absence of Van der Beek, how do you see De Roon solving that problem? Because if they don't solve that problem, worries for the Orange.
Yeah, it's how you have your balance in attack. So everybody, they play the 4-2-3, for example, and they have them wide areas, and they can get the fullbacks wide, and the wide forwards can roll in and try and receive it. But ultimately, if the ball breaks down, you need that balance behind the ball as a pivot to recycle the ball and to keep momentum and to keep the I mean, even be able to break up the play when possession is lost. You might get away with it against teams in the group stages, but consistently, if you start to get through to the last 16, it's definitely going to be an area that they're going to have to work on, because you're either going to get overloaded in that area, or your player's going to be out of position, and basically you can have the same consequences. Both that you're going to get picked off, and teams will run, or people will play through you, or people will play around you, or people will play over you when they win the ball back. So positional discipline in that kind of more defensive midfielder role is the biggest aspect, really, that everybody's focusing on the ball, what you're doing in attack, the movements, the clever little combinations in and around the box. But it's the people who do the hard work out of possession. When your team's got the ball, that defensive midfielder to screen, protect. You've seen world-class players over years, and Dutch players as well, who are superb at doing it, protecting that back four and being able to recycle. But if that midfielder advances too far and gets caught out of possession, positionally, then they can easily pick him off. And I think that'll be something that they might get away with against lesser teams, but definitely against a running team and a team that want to play the ball forward and quickly, they might struggle.
Well, of course. I mean, Austria also started quite emphatically. I'd be taking this question first, though, because Saurav has been waiting for a long time. Andy, I think you have seen the game of Slovakia. Do you think about what do you think about the team? That the time they took in the transformation from defense to attacking is the minimum in the Euro 2020, I think. Good question.
Is that a clever, a nice way of saying it's very slow? Yeah, I mean, you have to play with you can have all the intention of the world. Every coach arrives at a club and says, we're going to have this high pressing, we're going to keep possession, we're going to want the ball, we're going to be dominant in these areas. People don't come to press conferences very often and say, I don't want my team to have it, we're going to play defensive and play on the counter. But ultimately, if you're going to be resolute in defence and have a really compact from your striker or your two strikers, how they're set up, and the goalkeeper and everyone in between, you've got to have intent. You still can be on the front foot. You still can be aggressive to try and win the ball back when the opportunity comes. And then you need the legs and the speed to be able to get out and play. And that's ultimately going to be the problem if you don't over the time. You're going to get caught, and then when the ball is transitioned again, the ball is going to end up closer to your goal. So you're not going to be able to get out as quick. Obviously, they had the success in the game, but I think your comment about how slow they maybe are in transition to get the ball forward allows the opposition and good opposition to get back, to get in balance, to get in shape, to recover, and to be able to be compact and not allowed Slovakia to hurt them as much. So for them, it might be a case of more of the same. It'll be interesting how they're set up. I think they play Spain in the next game, don't they? So they might be compact and low, but when they do recover the ball, whether they have them forward runners and the momentum to get out, or if they change the style of play. But for them, again, set pieces, corners, free kicks, opportunities to get bodies in the box might be good opportunity.
Well, Shishir Roy has said, Darun Anustan, that means a wonderful show. Thank you so much, Shishir. Lovely listening to that. But, well, I have a question to Andy. Like, we have seen how, Baumgartner and then David Alaba or Natovic created all sorts of trouble the other day. Ulma from the left flank, they created all sorts of trouble against Macedonia. Of course, I mean, there is no comparison between Macedonia and a team like Netherlands. But how do you see the performance of Austria and how much improvement they can make while the tournament goes forward? And of course, what do you think about Savica? Don't you think that deserves a top-class European side to play?
I think teams like Austria, they kind of go under the radar in European football, in a sense that because of the way the structure of European football is, they play a lot of their friendlies again. If you look at recent games, I know they played Norway. I think they played Luxembourg in friendlies. They played Romania, teams like this. So they maybe don't play some of the most elite teams all the time, and they get results and they do well, and they come to championships and they get overlooked in terms of how they play and maybe get less credit from a lot of people from outside, including myself, in terms of threats that they might have. But clearly they do have, like many teams in this tournament, that might not get all the way through, but they do have threats and in certain individuals. And if you can back up them high-level individuals, like we saw with Aaron Ramsey and Bale, if you can grab them individuals and have a team around them that can support, then you've got a good chance, you've got opportunities. And for me, like you mentioned, the players that have stood out for them so far, it's a shop window, isn't it? And it has been for years, the Euros, that if you're, playing in one of the European leagues, maybe not in the top 5 leagues, but you can have a really strong performance here, you'll get noted and you'll be tracked. You probably are doing already, but you can really put yourself in a good position to get that move and to get that big move because the transfer window opens. So for the way they're set up, I think they've been very good. It's going to be interesting how they go against the Netherlands.
Absolutely. Well, I had a question about Marcel Sabitzer. We all know how crucial he is for Austria. He played outstandingly well the other day against Macedonia. How do you see about his performance? Doesn't he deserve to play in a top Premier League club or top La Liga club with the prowess, with the potential he has?
Yeah, I think some people might say he's at a really good club now, wouldn't they? He's at Leipzig, isn't he? So, others may disagree. But these type of clubs, obviously, we know what they've been able to do. They've been able to get talent, they've been able to develop talent, and they've been able to sell talent as well. So whether he's the next one that they want to kind of put in the shop window and get him ready, but for sure he's had a great impact on his team. I don't know overly his season in Germany, how well he's been, but I know that when he's come here, he's really taken it with both hands, and I know he'll be a huge threat. For me, when you get these kind of midfielders that can play box to box and can be creative and unlock doors, this is what you need. But the other side of it, then, combative nature, where you can break up play, you can do the ugly work that's not seen on the camera. That's what I love to see as well from players that, often in coaching now, a lot of younger players get pigeoned, and even the younger players know it themselves from playing on media games and Xbox games and PS games, that you have defensive midfielders and you have attacking midfielders, and kind of gone as the art of these box-to-box midfielders that can still run, that can still pass, but can still tackle and do that work. And I think they're still going to have value in the game. The more the game demands speed, the more it demands precision. I still think people like him will still have opportunities to shine. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was top clubs sniffing around at the moment, for sure.
Thank you so much, Andy. So before wrapping up the show, it would be a quick prediction. Yesterday, I got all 3 right. So that's a kind of a good mood for sure. But what's your prediction, Andy? Firstly, North Macedonia versus Ukraine. Ukraine was splendid the other day, wasn't it?
Yeah. When you got your predictions right, were you just asking for the result, or were you predicting scores as well? Because surely you can't have got all that correct.
Just the result.
Okay, well, I will go with a Ukraine win.
This next game, Denmark versus Belgium.
Belgium. I don't think I'm going to predict a draw, am I? That's not going to be good.
and of course, the last one, Netherlands versus Australia. How do you see that result to go?
My heart's telling me Netherlands, but secretly I'd love a little draw, just to put the cat amongst the pigeons in that group. So I'm not sure, but maybe it'll be interesting to see. I do think Netherlands will be too strong, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little competitive draw there.
Thank you so much, Andy. And that was quite an incredible show, to be precise. Andy, as always, as precise, as analytic, as always, and more importantly, we have opened new dimensions about this show as well, because we have discussed about some subtle areas where the other shows don't focus, about the subtleties of the technical sides, and that is the reason why Andy has been absolutely flawless in terms of analyzing all those things, as he always been. Thank you so much for being with us, Anirban. Thank you so much. Another cracking match day, and hope all the results will be going as we predicted. Same vibe as Andy predicted as well. The first game, I also feel Ukraine will have an upper hand. Second game, Belgium. And the third one, I think Netherlands will skip past Austria, because that's something which every football fan wants to see. here we go. So a lovely discussion, Andy. Thank you so much for being with us. See you tomorrow
Well,
again. And tomorrow we'll have Shilton Paul as well alongside you and Devjit coach. So we'll have another exciting contest and exciting day of analysis as well.